Oh, did they need
Because they
to?
don't have their video on.
Oh, okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Could you make me co-host and then I'll...
Sure.
Turn my mic off.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to make a co-host. Participants.
Go ahead and click participants. And then hover over this.
All right. Okay.
And then more. Make co-host.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes. Good. So can you see my hand okay, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Clear enough? Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. I know we have that echo because we're in the same room.
Yeah, I'll take it out there. Yeah, that shows pretty good.
Awesome. I'll just leave it right here then.
It's funny, somebody come in looking for firewood.
Oh,
I don't think you're gonna find any here.
yeah. Okay, Patty Atkinson, what you could do is turn your video on so that we can see your face. And I'm glad to see that you all have muted. Nice to see you, Patty. And Katie Hagan, nice to see you. I'll just keep it like this until until everybody's on board, and then I'm gonna have to put this on a slant so that, watch this. so that you can see my hands while I'm at work. So right now I want to look at your beautiful faces. So I'll just kind of like tip this up a little bit. Good, I'm glad we're here because I forgot my white thread. Well, I have this, I'll use this. Perfect. We have a full class. There's like 14 of us that are going to be on, so we're just waiting for them to join in. I know that some people have a more difficult time joining if they're not familiar with Zoom, so we'll give them some time. You have to unmute yourself, Patty, if you want to talk. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Frances. Glad you're here. All the way from, I forgot where you're from. Minnesota, Virginia. Hi, Michelle. I see you're on here. What you can do is turn your video on so that we can see your face. And then there's that mute button. It looks like a microphone. When it's red, that means you're muted and no one can hear you. So if you want to turn it on now and say hi, and then you can turn it off when the class starts. There you go.
Am I there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Am I the only one here?
No, there's a whole bunch of other people. So if you want to see other people, go to participants and click on that. And it's at the bottom of your,
Okay.
there. Now, do you see everybody?
Well, not quite, but I think soon. They're still connecting, some of them.
Yes, yes, they are. And some people won't show their faces, but I like to see faces. Mine will disappear when I'm teaching because I'll have to do something with this laptop so that you guys can see my hands, and then that means you won't see my face.
Okay. All right.
And Lisa is on. Wonderful. She lives here in Sitka. Frances, I get to see your face. How wonderful. Tell us where you're from. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Oh, hi, June. It's good to see you again. Yeah, I'm in Maryland, and I'm a conservator and work for the state of Maryland.
Okay, wonderful. Now, when you're done talking, you could mute yourself. That way we don't get the echoes and whatnot. And Chris, hi.
Hi.
Glad you made it.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to see what you do.
Yeah.
But I'll turn my video off because it's weird.
Okay,
I'm just gonna
sure.
pay attention though.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for coming in. And
So I'm looking for Charlotte and Mary. Are they there yet?
I don't see them on yet.
All right.
they did pick up their kits though, so I know that they do want to be on, and Jackie did send emails out, so she reached out to everyone. And if they can't make it, that means they're smoking fish, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know what that's all about.
smoking fish and picking berries, gosh.
Oh. And the red huckleberries are ripening and just about ready to pick.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. I just got news from my adult children who live in Big Lake, Alaska, and they live way up high on a hill in a dry cabin, but someday soon it'll be wet up there. But they just picked 2 gallons of raspberries.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, so now we have Claire. I can't say your name, Claire, your native name.
Sugpiaq.
Oh, Kakchao.
Ah,
Okay, good. Are you the lady with the polar bear stuff?
yes,
We can get connected.
yes.
I'll be here tomorrow.
what is that?
That noise, that tapping noise,
Yeah.
sounds like a drum. Somebody's heartbeat. Yeah, so if you turn your video on, we can see faces, and if you punch in participants down on bottom, we can all see who's on. And then there's a way to, like, say if someone is showing something and we want to see what they've got, then there's these 3 dots up here right above their name, right above your name, Michelle. And I think that's the one we click on, speaker view. And, oh, Lisa Byconen came on for some reason. And then Lisa, network bandwidth is low. Okay, I'm sorry, Lisa, about that.
Oh, no, what I had to do was the August 5th link in the email didn't work. I had to click on the August 7th link to get into the Zoom.
Oh,
For some
my. Oh,
Yeah.
I know, because we canceled. I had to cancel. There was something going on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that might, okay.
What
Well,
happened? Well,
other-
I'll tell you guys what happened, because I know some of you are friends and you're curious. I tripped on my foot, bonked my head, and ended up with a head concussion. So we had to move this class forward. But my head is doing really good now. And it seems like I've got it all together. And we're going to have a really good class. So
Great.
now I need to look at the gallery view so that I'm looking at everyone. Pretty soon you won't see me. Robert is a co-host, so he's going to count how many people are signed on and let me know when I can go for it. And I'm not going to hold off too much longer, just depending on what time it is right now, to wait for anyone. I can't see the time on my screen.
2:10.
2:10, yeah, I think we should get going, right? Yeah, so what I want to do is introduce myself real quickly. My name is June Pardue. I was born in Old Harbor Village on Kodiak Island. Way back when, we called it Nunyak, and a lot of us still do call it Nunyak. That's the original name of our village. And even at that point, back then, if I were introducing myself and in general, you know, with a lot of people, and they already knew that I was Sugpiaq from Kodiak Island, I would just say, Kik Dachmut. I'm from the Big Island. So my parents gave me native names. My native name is Acha, from relatives, and as a matter of fact, that was my my auntie's name, my great aunt, my dad's aunt. Her native name was Acha. And then on my mother's side, the Alutiiq side, they gave me the name Gagarak. And sometimes names just didn't have meanings, you know, they just called us those names. But Gagarak in Alutiiq, I was told, was good thinker. And then Acha from back home might mean great aunt or aunt. Maybe it didn't have a meaning, okay? But I do know that in talking with Florence Pestrikoff, an elder from Old Harbor and a linguist, she shared with me that a Gianni is underneath something big. She said I was underneath something big, you know? And so I like to, with what she shared with me, I really, really hold that dear to heart because I am under something big. You know, as Sugpiaq people, we have a creator, and we've always been told never to set that aside. That's part of our native values. I'm glad to be here in Sitka, Alaska, here at the Friends of Sheldon Jackson Museum. And it's because of them that I'm here, and it's because of the National Endowment of the Arts, for the Arts. Part of their funding brings me here. And while I'm here, I'm not just sitting in my space creating things. I do get up occasionally and walk into the museum and take a look at artifacts that were collected from way, way back. And while I was looking at artifacts back there, I came across this beautiful, and you guys who live in Sitka will need to take a trip in here to find the Porcupine Quill belt, okay? And take a look at that, bird quill belt with porcupine quill wrappings on it. And so with that said, that's what we're going to be doing today, is learning how to work with quills. And porcupine quills have been used by Native American people from Alaska, you know, down into the way lower 48. And beautiful things have been made. Before beads were introduced to us, there was a way that people worked with porcupine quills and it looked like beads when, you know, with some of the stitches that they used. So today, I'm not an expert. I was taught by a lady in Whitehorse about 25 years ago, Lynn Fabio, and she came, people would come down. I had a little shop in Haines, and they would come down and bring their things that they made and ask if I could buy so I could sell to tourists. You know, that's when the cruise ships first started landing in Alaska, and this part of Alaska anyway. And so she would come down, and I taught her how to weave the Alutiiq style baskets with grass. But then she made a third trip down, and she brought, oh, this beautiful smelling juniper vines, and soaked those in water and wove with those. And to this day, I still want to find juniper vines and for me, I mean, fresh off the ground to weave with, because I'll never ever forget the smell. And in exchange, she brought moose hide, brain tan smoked moose hide, and some porcupine quills. So what I'm teaching you today is what she taught me. And she first taught me on a small project, but it was a brooch. I believe it was a brooch that I made. And but these are earrings, and people are making them today. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm going to hold this one up to you. This is what I've been wearing, okay? And it's on deer hide. I started this one this morning. It took about 2 hours to make, and it still needs, can you see it okay? And it still needs the edging on it. And I chose the Tlingit colors, you know, because I am Sugpiaq, and I am in Tlingit territory, and just want to honor them and thank them for me being on their land so that I could share this art with people, okay? And then when I get home, I hope I can have another class with kids teaching them how to do this, because we want to keep all our native arts alive and moving along. I do have a beautiful Athabasca great-granddaughter, and I'm hoping that she can learn from my husband, who is Gwich'in as well, so that we can keep this alive, porcupine quill weaving. With that said, I'm going to get started. I'm going to pull the parts out that I want you to work with right now are just these 2 parts. This is how we get started. And it's the brain tan deer skin I wish I had moose hide, but I don't. Brain tan deer skin. And then this is commercial tan fish skin from Iceland. There we go. That's a nice sheen on it. And I'm gonna just use 3 tacks to tack it down to this with my black thread. And it's okay if it's a little bit longer than the base, which is the deer hide, because what I'll end up doing is just snipping any extra off of it. And guess what? I'll use that for embellishment on another earring or a piece of garment. Okay, so now I'm going to bend this down. You're not going to be seeing my face. And if you have questions, please direct them. There's a way to maybe chatting and direct that. And Robert is just wonderful here. He's co-hosting, and what he will do is he'll catch the chats and read them off if there are any questions so that I can answer you. Okay, and I see a chat already. I'm gonna click on that to see what someone has to say. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. You had to use the August 7 link. I'm gonna get out of there. So I hope that people might figure that out. You guys did, right? Let me click out of that chat. But yeah, anything that comes in, Robert will turn his microwave on and read that off to me. But right now I'm going to tack this down, just 3 stitches. One will be way up here with a knot behind this, one in the middle, and then one at the base. And then I will trim this little red piece, little tab off, and you know that tab can be used for decorating something else. So this gets, you won't see my face now, and I won't be able to read chats. So I need to hear from someone if you can see my hands.
We can.
Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, so I knotted this black thread, and it's not very long. It's short because I don't need a full length. I'm not making a bunch of stitches on here. Okay, so it's only this long. I'm so glad I have this orange background so that you can see my thread and everything. So I'm going to start right here. I do have pliers, by the way, to help me, and I will employ those. So we're going to grab this. And I never grab my needle with my pliers way up here. I go down to the base and pull straight, because if you do this with your needle while it's on this deer hide, this will snap. So when you pull, just pull straight out. I am in the habit of doing that now because I have broken many, many needles. And what you have in your container is only 1 needle, okay? And for visitors who come in, just walk directly into the museum like you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. Okay, so excuse me, I'm back. So I made 1 stitch way up here. So there it is, right? And then if this were moose hide, I would go, hey, let me teach you something though. Let's pretend that this is moose hide. I am going to hide my thread by going part way through the skin. Okay. So that we don't, you know, with our native skin sewers, my aunties would come and say, let me see the back of your work. My husband is always so proud to show the back of his beading because the back of his work looks like a design of its own. He takes much, much pride in that. So now I'm going to put another stitch in the very center. And notice that I used the towel for pushing my needle up through. But, you know, when we get older, we have wrist problems. So what I'm going to do is use my plier and I will pulling straight out. And then I am going to put this through. You can't even see the knot on this fish skin. Push that through. Pull this. And to keep it from gathering, I'll tie a knot here. So here's what I did. I just looped it and then I went underneath. And then when I hold my pointer finger on this, it'll keep the knot way down there. Okay, so now I'm going to move my way up to somewhere around here and continue basting this strip of salmon leather. So we'll try to hide that. So that goes like that, and that's how I'm hiding my thread. If it were a thicker moosehide, you wouldn't even see the thread. So pull this straight forward. So now I'm pulling forward. We are so blessed to be here, to be able to have the Zoom class through the Friends of Sheldon Jackson Museum. And if you're interested in any articles that they have here, you can, you know, just shoot them an email or give them a phone call and just say, hey, you know what, I'm interested in looking at that belt that has bird quills and porcupine quills on it, and they'll email it to you. So here's this knot that I'm making. And then I am going to pick this up and do this, and I'm gonna snip that. And oh yeah, after I make a knot, I usually go through the material, any skin that I'm working on, so that I can snip it. And when I do that, I don't have a whole bunch of thread sticking out everywhere. So this gets snipped. There we go. And then I will set this needle aside, and I'm going to switch to a needle with white thread. So I flip this over, and you will notice that sometimes deer hide will stretch. So will moose hide. Okay, now I have this little tab sticking out. I want to cut that off. And the best way to do it is not on the top side, is to flip it over, because you can see how much is overlapping better when you flip it over because of the contrast in color. So now I will take this and I will snip it, and I will save that little piece. It will come in handy in decorating something else, okay? So I will pick that up and I'll put it over there. Okay, now, rather than working on the other side, I would like for you to just focus on one side first.
Question.
Okay.
Patty wants to know if you're making a knot for each stitch.
Yes, Patty, a knot for each stitch works really well in keeping your basting from gathering. Otherwise, it would gather, and then you'd have maybe an earring that looks like this. So we want to keep it flat. So each time that you baste a stitch on, you can put a knot on the back. Good question. Okay, so now this is what it looks like, and that's what your other pair is going to look like. Usually I do both sides at once. I'll do this, and then I will do the other side. So because of time, what I'm going to do is move along, because you can work on this on your own. What's wonderful about our Zoom classes is that you don't have to show your work. If have you ever tried crocheting a granny square and all your squares came out kind of loopy, you know, didn't match up? I know my first granny square, it wasn't even an Afghan, it was just like a lap blanket, and it turned out not rectangular, but way off from rectangular. So this is a really good small project so that you can get used to working with porcupine quills. Normally, people would baste on each side so that they can keep their zigzag, the zigzag that they need to do, even on both sides, okay? And I got to thinking, you know what, this is a wonderful way to keep us from, just keep us right on it. And then it's got you can barely see the fish skin in the background, but it's there, and it helps to add dimension to the project. So now we've got this here. It'll help you keep your zigzagging straight in line on both sides, okay? What I do with a porcupine quill is I do this. You can either use styrofoam, and nowadays styrofoam is hard to get a hold of, so cups. So I just poke it through like this. When I'm at home, when I'm anywhere, I don't want any of the quill parts that are cut off to bounce on the floor for anyone to step on it, because the quills have barbs. And when it enters into your skin, it will travel and get harder and harder to remove. Okay, so that we don't have any damaging effects to our health, in case, you know, we don't want anytime one to get in us. So what I'm going to do is I poke that through, and I'm going to snip it. Actually, I'll hang on to this, and I want to snip it. And I'll tell you what, that barb does not want to come out of there. I mean, I'm putting pressure on it, and it's really hard for us to pull it out of there. So once it's in there, we want it to stay there, and we want to make sure that when we're done for the day, we take this strip, and I personally at home, I will have a bottle of, you know, empty water, and I'll put all these strips inside that bottle, and then I'll secure the cap on it, and then it goes into the garbage can. You just never know when cats or dogs or even ravens will get into the garbage bag if you set it outside and forget you have it there, and we don't want to hurt our other creatures either. So now that I have done this, there's air and a cork-like substance in here, so I want to flatten it. And I can't flatten it if I have this back here. This is for the very beginning of your project. You're not going to cut all of them like this. Only the very first one, okay? So now what we want to do is this back end, you don't want that to bounce anywhere either, and it can stick right on your paper. So I'm going to cut it right about here. I'm going to take this and put it in a safe place until I can get rid of it. Okay, now I have this, and then begins, because it has been soaking in water for about 20 minutes, 15 minutes will do if it's hot, hot water, because my quills have been soaking in here. It softens the quill for me to flatten it without it cracking. If you try to flatten it while it is dry, you will end up with cracking cracks. in your quill, okay? Like a broken glass, you're gonna end up with cracks in this if it's dry. So what I do here is I wanna flatten this, and you have to get rid of both ends for this to flatten so you can push the air. There's a cork-like substance inside. So let me get a flat surface that I am going to flatten it on. Let me set this aside. Whoops, there went my quill on the floor. And we're so lucky that it doesn't have that barbed tip on it. You know, otherwise it would have gotten stuck on the rug. So here I am. It's on a flat surface, and you can do this with your thumbnail. Is just go on ahead and flatten it with your fingers and just do it that way. Some people don't want to touch it, and they'll use the back side of their tool. And it's really nice when you're on plastic, because then it's not really harsh in flattening it. Okay, so that is flattened, yay. And it is still moist. In order for me to get that zigzag on here, let me see here, let me show you right here. In order for me to get the zigzag, I start off at a slant. It is not straight across, but I have it, oh, my fingers are in the way. I have it at a slant, so it's up this way and not straight across. Can you still see me well? Okay, so in order for me to do this, I will lay this down and go, okay, that's where I want my stitch, right up there. I have my needle with my white thread, and it's knotted at the end. Don't ever put your knot here. I have a lot of students who try to put a knot right here, and that just makes it so difficult to pull your needle and thread through your fabric. So I am going to start way up here. I will use my plier to help me pull it through. Generally, you don't need a plier. So there we go. Now, here's how we start. I will lay this down. I will lay my porcupine quill down at a slant. Like that. And I want to capture that quill to stay down. So my stitch goes over the quill. And then I will poke down right here. Okay. Now that I know where my quill goes, I don't have to worry about it being on there, because I'll slide it in. I'll show you how I slide it in. What I want to do is poke my needle through, pull it, and I do this. I hold my thumb in place. So that it's not curling as I'm pulling it, because sometimes that happens. And then I will place this here, and I'll hold it there with this pointer finger and pull with this hand so that my stitch is made, and it holds that quill in place at an angle. Now I will bend this over at an angle for my zigzagging, and I will know where my stitch goes on the other side, because I want to hold it down now that it's this way. And then let's get it more at a slant. Aha, there we go. And then from the underside, I will poke up through the brain tan smoked deer hide And we have a question.
Lisa's asking, how much thread do you have on your needle?
I have this much thread times 2. Let me pull this through and then you'll be able to see because it's doubled. And that's a good question, Lisa, because if your thread is too long, it just tangles up on you, okay? So let me pull this. And it is probably 12, probably about 18 inches long, 18 inches times 2. And then I fold it in half, and it could even shorter is better because this stuff likes to curl up and get crazy knots if you have it too long. Okay, so this is at an angle this way now. And I know that my stitch needs to be this wide because it goes over, not shorter and not through the quill. So it goes over, poke my needle through, pull it straight forward with my plier, and then I guide my threads, watching it so that it doesn't curl and knot up on me, because I'll tell you, thread will do that. Okay, so now I want to, this is a zig, now let's get the zag back this way. So this goes like this, and now, see, we have our first V zig pattern. So here we go. Now, I like to look at my spacing. Sometimes I'll make them wider to have a more dramatic look, which you can do. And I would pull my thread up here and it would go over. And when you want this dramatic look, you want to make sure that your space here matches the space on the other side as you work your way down your project. Let's, should we make it dramatic so that you can see how it looks different from this? Let's try that. So here we go. Up, pull this forward, go over my quill so that I know how far my stitch, how far this stitch needs to be from coming up here to going down right here. And then I like to hold my work down with my thumb. Pull your thread back with your little finger. Pull this down, and don't make it so tight that your work gathers. All you need is to hold it down so that you could do this. Now, what did I talk about? Dramatic work, right? We want to be able to see that fish skin underneath my zigs and my zags, my zigs and my zags. So I will measure with my eyes that I need to have it this wide here and the same distance down here. Okay, so from underneath, you'll get the hang of it. You'll know where your needle is supposed to go after you've done this several times, several years. So here we go. I'm going to pull this up. Let me move this. I just feel like we have too many shadows here. So this goes over once again. And if you've ever spent time with your children, you know that you have to tell them over and over at least 20 times before they get it. So you will hear me over and over and over again that you have to measure your stitch so that it allows it to stay flat even here, okay? Rather than pinched. You don't want it pinched. So here we go. But look, I'm at the end of my rope here. I need to add to that, right? To continue with my zigging and zagging with the porcupine quill. I'll show you how I add to it. So I want to make sure that this isn't going to curl up on me. So I watch it. And then when I get about this far, I'm going, oh gosh, I got to add to that. I have to add to that to continue my work. So what I want to do is, I really like the black where it is, the darkness in the tip of the porcupine quill. So I'm going to look in my bowl and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to take the one with the longest, darkest tip. This is, I'll show you why. So this goes in here once again. We want to make sure that that does not pop out of there. See these in back? So I am going to snip right here and move that aside. This part can be nasty too, but it doesn't want to stick on the paper. So I'm just going to put it over here on, I'm putting it here on this surface so that I can gather these and throw those inside the water bottle at the end of my day. These little sharp thingies right here. So now I'm back to flattening this. The reason I chose a small project is your quills will dry on you, these right here, while you're working. And we want to make sure that while you're learning to do this, you're keeping everything moist. Because when it dries, if I got up and I said, I'm just too tired to continue on with this, the next day, all of this would be dry and I would have a hard time bending this right here. Now I will pause for another question or comment.
Ashley is asking if it's okay to just cut off the white barbs of the quills.
Yes, you may.
They probably didn't read the question.
Oh, the question was, is it okay to cut off the white barb on the quills? Yes, it is. You can certainly do that before you start your project. But once again, you want to make sure that all your quills are moist when you cut them, because what can happen, and I know because I have done this, cutting them while they're dry, you get cracks in the quill because it's dry, it cracks. You know, and then you have a portion of it that is ruined, and then you have to moisten it to correct the problem. So always snip them only after they've been dampened, you know, been soaking in a bowl of warm water for at least 15 minutes. Okay, so now I want to flatten this again. So let's go and do that. The reason I cut the tip off on this is because of the lay of the quill. Okay, sometimes I don't cut it off, and I hope we run into a part where I wouldn't cut it off. So I want to flatten this. And there we go. That's wonderful. Yay, it worked. So what I want to do here is, because this gets folded over and it'll be hidden, I have to pull this back out, the stitch. It has to, I have to loosen this up a little. I didn't mean to pull it all through. Sorry about that. I need to be able to lift this, okay, in order to put a portion of this under there, because we want to secure the added quill on. It goes underneath, because if you put it up on top, it'll catch on maybe hair or fabric, you know, and then you have a ruined earring. So you want to make sure, because it'll pull it. We want to hide it under there. I wish this were longer, because I would have done it this way and more of the dark part of the quill would be showing, but didn't turn out that way. So we pull this down so that I can bend this, and it hides where you have added your quill. Whoops, we want to pull it more. Keep it straight. And we're going for the dramatic look with the fish skin underneath. So this width is the same as this. So when you're working, you have to keep your eyes on everything, you know, because it's all about aesthetics and how it looks. And because we're here in Southeast Alaska, we're going to honor the people by using the red, black, and white.
June,
Yes.
your hands have moved. You are working on the orange part. There you go. You need
Thank you. Can you
there
see?
you
Okay?
go. Thank you.
Were you able to see how I hid the short piece of quill when I
Yes,
bent this over?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, please let me know if I need to make adjustments, because this is your class. Okay, this gets pushed down. I hold it down there. Sometimes, you know, some people are just happier with two needles, two threaded needles, and they'll use a needle on this one side to do their in and out stitch. And then the other needle will be over here on this side and do their in and out stitch, so that when you flip it over, it looks much neater than this. And if you're comfortable doing it that way, do it. My husband would. So I bent that over and I'm eyeballing it. I don't want it wider. It'll look weird if I make it wider. So there we go. So this comes up. This goes over. This goes down. Poke that down. And it's repetitious. But we're almost there, right? We're more than halfway. Ooh, somehow my thread curled on me. What did I do? That's all. Oh my gosh. Let's make sure. There we go. It caught itself like this under this one.
June, your hands are up again. Sorry.
I'm glad you're keeping tabs on me.
I want to see what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of drifted.
thank you. So can you see? Can you see that?
Very well.
Okay. You are going to be my Zoom guide. So there we go. Now, isn't that wonderful how you can see the salmon skin underneath that better than you can on this one? But it just goes to show you the difference in being dramatic or keeping your quill work really, really tight. You know, I like this better. I really do. So there we go. We're going to go down here. And what's really neat about this Zoom class is it's going to be airing again. He recorded it. Robert is recording this, thank goodness, so that you can go back and capture it and watch it. And you know what you can do with your iPhone is the next time it's on YouTube or the next Zoom through the Sheldon Jackson Museum, you can take your iPhone or your whatever phone you have and video it for yourself. so that you can watch it and rewatch it as you continue to work with porcupine quills. Isn't technology wonderful today? So here we go. I am going to poke through. I'm going to pull this. Can you still see my hand?
Yes.
Okay, this goes over and I'm going to tack that quill down. But remember what I said about not bunching it up, not scrunching it. We don't want to do that, okay? And once again, reminding you about the width so that we have that dramatic look with our zigzag underneath this layered work, layered textiles. Okay, so we're gonna do this. And now I'm at the end of my porcupine quill to where I know that I need to add something here. So I'm gonna measure it. I'm just gonna bend it over. It's not quite long enough. It needs to extend farther out. So what am I gonna do? I'll show you. Here we go. And I'll go back to this and I'm gonna pull it out, pull my thread out so I can make an addition to this. Pull that forward. I'm gonna rest this down here first as I look for a quill. So that would be 1, 2, I'm on my 3rd quill. And I'm gonna go with this one, but I'm not gonna cut the tip off because I want the length. I want some of that quill to start to show. So I'm gonna cut the back end of it off once again on here. And I'll be able to get rid of these 3 pieces at the end of right away so I don't forget. Do not want to forget. So let me set this down away. Let's go back up here and let me know if I'm scooching back again. I need to know. So now I'm going to flatten it because there is no hole up on the tip. Make sure that I flatten this way a couple of times and get that air out of there. Just using my fingernail. That goes down like that.
One more question.
Yes.
Ashlyn is asking, what am I supposed to do with the darker part of the quill?
Ashlyn, what am I supposed to do with the dark part of the quill? Here's where we're gonna try to capture the dark part of the quill on here because it just hasn't been happening with this project for some reason. Usually on this one you can see it, just the nature of the zigzagging, but for some reason it hasn't been working here. So I did not cut the tip off because I want some of the black, the dark part of the quill to show. So this goes underneath there and I'm gonna pinch it down. And remember the quill is dampened so that it can bend nicely. I hope I can get, oh shucks, there isn't that much of it showing either. But we're just gonna have to live with that. I wanted to get the dark showing, but it's not happening. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. Now I am looking at the spaces here. And I want them equal. I think I'm gonna tie a knot on the underside right here because the stiffness of the point of the quill is keeping it from laying flat. And because I want that stitch to help lay it flat, I will make here's how I make a knot. I do the loop, get it way down close to the deer hide, put my pointer finger on it and pull, and your knot is way down there close to the fabric. Okay, so now what I will do is this, because I want to hide that quill underneath this top layer. So this goes up. Pull this, and then you will have homework between now and our next class, which will be on Friday, same time. You want to make sure that you get both sides with your zigzag on it. Can someone please tell me what time it is? I'll ask a time, please.
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay, we have a half an hour. So now here's this zig, and then let's get that zag down. Ta-da. Okay, this is going to be my last stitch, because there just isn't any space. It would go off. So this goes here. My needle was not where it was supposed to be, so I'm trying to get it there without going through the porcupine quill. Okay, so at this point, it becomes tricky. I am going to cut that much off. Snip. And then, did you see what I did with my fingernail? I kind of like pinched it so I would know when to bend that. Let's get this needle flat so that I'm not poking myself. And then we're going to bend this, the underside of the quill. This is where you need dexterity with your work. I'm going to use this needle, or you can use your tweezers. There we go. That's exactly where I'm going to want my stitch. And it's going to help hide the part that I snipped off and folded under right here. Okay, so let's pull this needle through. And then I want to do this. I'm going to pull. And while I still have some of this, yeah. I'm going to try to hide this under there. I'm having a difficult time. Okay. Just going to have to do it this way. Bend it over. People really won't see this. Just bend it over. Come back up partway through. Can you see what's happening with my deer hide? It's stretching. So this goes down here so that I can tie a knot in back. And then I will pull my needle through. I'm always keeping an eye on this to make sure it's not curling on me. And some of you avid beaders know that that can happen. You don't, people won't even see that. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to tie my 2 knots. Knot 1. And then we're going to wrap this around so that I have this loop like that. And then I want to hold that down so that my knot can be, I want to get it as close as I can to the fabric back there. And then before snipping it, because I don't want people to see snips, I'm going to hide this thread. I'm going to hide it under here, pull this through, and then I'm going to snip that. Those little ends are nowhere, you don't see them. And I always remember to tie a knot right away, because how many times have I picked this up and tried to make a stitch and there's no knot at the end. So knot it for the next phase of our beading. For those of you who already know how to bead, I'm going to share with you how you can continue on. But we will resume this class on Friday, where I will show you how to add your beads on. Okay, now there are times when I'll take the lighter and I'll burn the tip, but I'll do it very, very quickly. This can be handy, so save it. It'll come in handy, okay, later. So this has a knot that's burnt down with nothing sticking out, okay? So I'm going to set this needle aside for now. I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to go, whoa, that kind of stretched on me. So I'm going to straighten it up. I'm going to lay it down so that you can see how this side stretched, and I'm going to very gently and very carefully trim it down, okay? So that it is straight on both sides. Do we have any questions that I'm missing, that I don't see because of the computer being, no? Ooh, okay. So this is how far I got with this in an hour and however many minutes. What time is it? How do you say what time it is? What time is it in Tlingit? Okay. So I can't help you there. So anyway, here we go. This is the not so dramatic look with the fish skin in the background, and this is the dramatic look with the fish skin in the background. And what I would do now is, if for those of you who already are beaders, you can start off here. You can either keep it all red or all black or all white in between. Here, you would add a bead here. From underneath, you would come up here and then add a bead here. go through. From underneath, you would come and add a bead here. From underneath, you would add a bead here and here. Tie a knot, skip over to this side, and you would add beads where you have the V and the red showing in the background. So you add a bead here, 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 and here. And if you want to do it right up here, go for it, so that you have beads across from each other right up here, okay? Now, I want to tell you that when I am adding beads, I like to go through them twice so that they can lay popped up. Otherwise, they end up laying down in a weird way. That doesn't look good. So you want to go through your bead twice. And then right now we have a question or a comment.
Lisa's asking, how did you hide the end?
Okay, Lisa was asking me, how did I hide the end of the quill or the end of my thread? Lisa.
The end of the quill.
The end of the quill. Oh, I just bent it over. I couldn't because of my dexterity. I couldn't, so I just folded it over and it ends here. But I went with my thread and tacked it down from here to here. And tell me you can't see that. Once again, it was sticking out like this. It was like this. I made a stitch here to hold it down. Then I bent it this way. Then I bent it over. Does that make sense? And then made a stitch here to tack it to hold it down. So here, can you see this? Here's the end of it right here. Can you see that? Here's where I snipped it off. And this piece of thread is tacked, holding it down. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So, because of this class, I will have to make a matching pair for this earring and a matching pair for that earring. But here's when you're going to be adding beads in between the zigs and the zags, where your little opening is with your salmon skin in the background, okay? Right in those areas. And then after we're done with that, this is the backing. It's a different color, but here's a backing and here's a backing. So this would go like this. And this is, first you have to do this. You have to get your beads on each side. Then I would begin the lace work that is right here. And I usually start up here and work my way around so that I end up here to begin the loop to put the earring hook onto. And notice that I don't have any threads sticking out on back, because what did I do? I hid them underneath this piece of fabric, which is fake, by the way. It's not real. It's not real. It's kind of like vinyl-like. It's fake leather, because I have found, I wear makeup and my makeup will get on the back. And if we have something that, and I got this from Joann Fabrics, just in, and it looks like leather, but really you can wipe it off with a damp makeup cloth and it makes it nice and clean all over again without it discoloring, you know, like moose hide or brain tan deer skin. So we're going to end here today. Like I say, after putting your beads on here, like I've got on this earring, after putting your beads here, then you back it with that, and then you do your lace work all the way around before attaching the earring hook. And there are different ways to attach the earring hook. So I'm going to have you look at me. You have your homework. Chamai. Chamai in the Sugpiaq language is hello. So I really thank you for joining me. I thought we had a wonderful class, and I hope to see you on Friday. Please come back. And there's Judy. Hi, Judy. You're from Sitka too. And Mary made it. That's great. Mary, is Charlotte on too? Or are you taking the class to teach her?
We're both watching you, June.
Oh, good. Awesome. That's wonderful. And I just want to thank all of you for joining me. I'm glad we're getting to be friends. I've received some warm hospitality in Southeast Alaska. I just can't tell you how blessed I am by each and every one of you. So, all righty. Yeah, who said Koyana?
Patty.
Oh, Patty, you're sweet. Tangchikamchi. Tangchikamchi is my language. I'll see you all again. I'll see you later. That is plural. Tangchikamgan would be to one person. So to all of you, Tangchikamchi, we don't say goodbye. Tangchikamchi. Ah. So yeah, Tangchikamchi. And I am going to sign off. You guys lead on. You're going to get the fever. You're going to be up all night.
Thank you. Good.
All righty. I'm going to try to figure
Thank you.
out.
Thank you, June.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
And meeting for all. Tangchikamchi.